the technicalities. It's March 23rd. Am I on? I'm going to. It's getting increasingly weird here trying to log on every morning. It is March 23rd, and in the Equinox of the Gods, for March 23rd, there's one entry. There was all sorts of excitement that happened with on the 19th and the 20th with the invocation of Horus and great wild success in Thoth and communications, and then postpartum depression and a dry spell. And there was a I Ching reading that they did, and Crowley doesn't mention what that was about, just IK, he said. And, but he did write The Secret of Wisdom. Now, we can make that what we will. But I thought coming up onto, he also did an extended tarot divination of no consequence. But it got me thinking about things, and we're getting ready to come up on the actual dates of the writing of the Book of the Law on April 8th, 9th, and 10th coming up, so we'll have plenty to talk about then. But in the meantime, I'd like to share something with you that I've probably shared before last year or the year before, concerning what the hell the Aeon is about, okay? And so I went to the Aeon card of the Thoth Tarot, and I saw what DuQuette had to say about it. And at first, this might be a nice little review before we get into the excitement of the writing of the Book of the Law. Here's the Aeon card. Okay, it's from the old original Llewellyn edition of the Thoth Tarot that I got way back in 1972 or 1 or something like that. And here's the Aeon card, okay? And as you can tell, it's just a kind of a version of the stele. Got our Nuit and Hadit, and we got two Horuses there. We got Horus on the throne there, Rahur Kuwait, and then superimposed above him is that child Horus, Hurpar Krat, with his finger in his lips saying, "Shh, don't tell anybody I'm Hurpar Krat." Okay. The original design is this is off the BOTA uncolored deck. Israfel blowing the last trumpet, the dead arising from their tombs, angels blowing a trumpet adorned with a golden banner bearing a white cross. Below, a fair youth rises from a sarcophagus in the attitude of the god Shu supporting the firmament. Well, I don't know if he's the god Shu supporting the firmament in this card. I think the BOTA and Paul Case had the child making the sign of Apophis and Typhon. And the three characters there are making the signs of L, Isis and Morning, almost, V, X, making the signs of LPX, actually raising out of their tombs in remarkably good shape. Okay. On the left, the woman gives the sign of water, an inverted triangle on the breast. On his right, the dark man gives a sign of fire, upright triangle on the forehead. Now, obviously, the BOTA deck did not do that, okay? Okay. Rahur Kuwait hath taken his seat in the east at the equinox of the gods. The traditional name of this card is Judgment, or the Last Judgment. The traditional design shows the Archangel Israfel blowing his trumpet to announce the end of the world as the dead arise from their tomb. In chapter 6 of this book, which is actually an extended commentary on this card, I attempt to explain why Crowley replaced the Last Judgment, replaced that, with that. Okay, with the Aeon. The reader who has not yet read that chapter is strongly advised to do so. I will sum up what I wrote there by simply saying, according to Crowley, the Last Judgment trump is now obsolete. The event that it depicted, the destruction of the world by fire, has already occurred. The world we're talking about, of course, is the spiritual age of Osiris. The Aeon card of the Thoth Tarot depicts the spiritual forces that initiated the next age, the Aeon of Horus. Now, I thought it would be a good time for us to see what I said in this extended commentary on this card, because it has everything to do with what Crowley ushered in 118 years ago today. Abrogate are all rituals, all ordeals, all words and signs. Rahur Kuwait hath taken his seat at the equinox of the gods. It's obvious to anyone who has more than a casual interest that there are several major features that distinguish the Thoth Tarot from other more traditional decks. First, the 4 court cards of each suit are titled Knight, Queen, Prince, and Princess, rather than King, Queen, Prince, Princess, or King, Queen, Knight, Page, or variants found in other decks. Crowley gives us a very interesting explanation for this that I'll discuss in detail in chapter 11. By the way, if you don't have this book, geez, you'd know what I thought. You could turn to chapter 11 right now. How much would you pay for a book? Don't answer. There's more. He also makes a very significant change into to 4 of the trumps, cards that have in the past borne the title Justice, Strength, Temperance, and Judgment, or the Last Judgment. In the Thoth Tarot, they're respectively named Adjustment, Lust, Art, and the Aeon. Crowley explains that the new titles more accurately convey the essential meanings of these cards, and we'll explore why in a moment. Name changes notwithstanding, the basic images of Lady Harris painted for Adjustment, Lust, and Art are more or less consistent with their counterparts in traditional packs. The Aeon, the card that replaces the Last Judgment, is a different matter. Instead of displaying a trumpeting angel awakening the dead from their coffins on Judgment Day, the Aeon reveals the beautifully stylized figures of the deities from the Stele of Revealing and the Book of the Law. Nuit, the goddess of infinite space. Hadit, here, let me hold this up. Hadit, the god of the infinitely contracted point, and Rahur Kuwait, or Horus, the child of their union. This change not only radically differentiates the Aeon card from the traditional Last Judgment card, it also serves to cast more subtle changes in the other cards. of the Thoth Tarot. What's the reason for this dramatic departure from Judgment's traditional image? According to Crowley, the change was necessitated by the fact that the spiritual event depicted in the old Aeon versions of the Last Judgment card have already occurred, and the Aeon card has replaced it to illustrate the defining moment when the old Aeon gave way to the new, which is exactly what we're discussing right now in this series. For many tarot enthusiasts who understand that the tarot is an evolving spiritual organism, the changes manifested in the Thoth Tarot come as a logical and welcome improvement. For others, the deck is an affront to their spiritual worldview. In fact, the cards were created by the fact that the cards were created by the wicked Aleister Crowley only reinforced their dark suspicions. This attitude, in my opinion, is very unfortunate. In the next few pages, I'll try to do my best to assuage the concerns that, for many, may still linger. The traditional tarot trumps are filled with biblical and classical themes, and a cast of characters that seem to have been plucked directly from medieval or Renaissance street theater. In the Lovers, we find Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. The destruction of the Tower of Babel is depicted in the Tower card. Fortune displays the wheel of Ezekiel's vision, and his four creatures grace both the Hierophant and the Universe cards, at least in the Thoth Tarot. The goddess Diana is the highest priestess, and Prometheus is the magus. We find an emperor, his fool, a pope or hierophant, a hermit, a hanged man, death, and the devil himself. There are celestial trumps, the sun, the star, the moon, the universe. Looking at the trumps, even a novice astrologer can locate within the 22 trumps, the 22 trumps, the 7 traditional planets and 12 signs of the zodiac. We hold a universe in our hands when we pick up a deck of tarot cards. Heaven and hell, church and state, stars, planets, elements, and principles. Even the ancient gods inhabit the 78 pieces of cardstock. Is it any wonder tarot has remained a preeminent tool of divination for centuries? There's also a dominant theme that runs through the traditional images of the trumps, a theme whose libretto was born in the last and most mysterious book of the New Testament, the Revelation of St. John the Divine. Here, we're first introduced to the trumpet-blowing angel of the Last Judgment card, and the Empress, who's obviously a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon at her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. The woman upon the scarlet-colored beast, that's Revelation 17:3, gives a strength card, or the lust card, and the angel who sets his right foot upon the sea and his left foot upon the earth is Revelation 10:2, is the classic image of the temperance card, or the art card. Currently, many Bible students are reassessing their theories concerning the book of Revelation, exactly when it was written and what it was originally trying to communicate. And there's now a growing consensus among scholars that what John was actually describing in veiled imagery, understandable to his contemporary audience, was not the millennial end of the world, but the all too flesh and blood details of the apocalyptic Holocaust that ended the Second Jewish Revolt in AD 72. Be that as it may, it really doesn't matter whether or not John's revelation is a prophetic vision of end times or an elaborately coded interoffice memo. The fact remains that for over 1,000 years, its words and images have been seared into the spiritual consciousness of Western civilization. We may never know the true story behind the book, but the book has become a myth, and a myth is truer than history. No matter what John was originally trying to communicate, his revelation conveniently provides to both the sincere seeker and the religious extortionist a grotesque vocabulary of terror and hope. The profound terror that comes from contemplating one's human inadequacies when standing before a divine throne of eternal judgment on the day the world is consumed by fire, and the hope of a future existence free of the fears and injustices of the past. The revelation of St. John the Divine certainly has been successful in generating terror. Its single shortcoming, however, is its failure to tell us that the end of the world is not really the end of the world. What then does the traditional Last Judgment card represent? Ironically, Crowley tells us it does indeed represent the destruction of the world by fire, an event that took place on March 20th, 1904, in an apartment in Cairo, when Horus, the god of force and fire, took his father's throne at the equinox of the gods, an event that signaled the end of the spiritual world of the dying god Osiris and the birth of the Aeon of Horus. And that is where we'll stop today. I will, as there is not very much daily diary entries between now and April 7th, I will return to this chapter, chapter 6, of Understanding Aleister Crowley's Thoth Tarot. We'll pick this up tomorrow. So, until then, enjoy your March 23rd and continue to be good to yourself and be good to each other. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love's the law, love under will. Audio visuals.